Hey guys, I'm Dustin with Real Avid, and I'm getting this Bergara 6.5 Creedmoor set up for the NRL Hunter Series. Now we're going to be taking shots out to 1,200, 1,400 yards. And accuracy is a big deal when it comes to the level of the optic in the rifle shooting out to that distance. So we have a great tool called the Level Right Pro. We're going to get on over to the Real Avid shop, and I'm going to show you how I got this optic set up for this rifle. All right guys, welcome back to the shop. So we've got my wife's Bergara here. We've got the Vortex Razor 4.5 to 27 with some Vortex mounts. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna get this guy just dialed in. We actually took this off of one rifle, moving it over to another rifle. My wife has already got her eye relief and everything set. So we're just gonna get this thing set up. We're gonna be using the Level Right to do that. Now the importance of the Level Right is to make sure we have a vertical plane or one plane from my optic onto my barrel of my rifle. So as I get my rifle level, my optic is also going to be level, and I'm not going to be depending on having a bubble level on my turret or a bubble level on my Picatinny. So that way we're not worrying about with any stacking of tolerance. So we've got our Level Right grid here. We have a level on top. We've got the projector here, which is a flashlight. We've got it set up with the mount that goes on the barrel, and we've got a level on here. So we'll drop this guy onto the barrel, push it forward, and we're going to actually push this down and mate it on top of the surface here. So we're creating that perfectly vertical, like one plane here, going straight up and down. We're going to use our master vise here to make sure we get the bubble level on top perfectly centered. Now on the grid, you can see, of course it's a grid. We've got perfectly level vertical and horizontal lines here. So we're going to spin this guy around, get my bubble level good. We're going to turn on our projector, and then we can adjust the power by moving the light in or out, which is going to display my reticle onto my grid. Now, one call I've been receiving a lot of is when you're working with an optic that has a bigger bell on there, the light doesn't project all the way onto the grid perfect. A lot of people think you've got to have that perfect circle on the grid, and that's not necessary. All I need to do is have a really solid horizontal line or a vertical line. That way I can actually use that to line that up with my grid. If you have a parallax on your optic, I'm going to make sure that's at the lowest power it can go. All we're trying to do is get nice, crisp, reticle display on our grid here. So from here, before I make any adjustments, I could actually zoom in a little bit, and you can see the numbers get a little bit more crisp. And now we'll just start to kind of turn this guy. Then we can move our grid around. If we want it to be on the vertical line, we can do that. If you want it to be out on the horizontal line, on your windage, just bring her out a little bit more. And now, in some of these instances, you can see we're perfectly good on the horizontal and the vertical line right there. So I'd say at this point, we're going to come in with our torque wrench. We're going to torque these down to our specs, and we're going to call it a day. Now, once I get to that spot, I like to when I go to torque this down, I like to adjust it in 3 different segments. So I'll do like a 10, a 15, and then I'll end on 20. So we're going to start at 10. I have a very particular way I do it. You at home, if you've done this before, you have a certain way you do it. But if I do have 4 screws on each cap, I'm going to crisscross them. Let's say if I only have a screw, 1 or 2 screws on each one, then I'm going to still do a crisscross pattern. I'm going to start from the muzzle end, go to the stock, come over and come back. And I'm just going to follow that pattern the whole way through on all of the torque settings here. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm going to keep an eye on my grid, make sure she's level. All right, so we can move this up to 15 now. Double check, make sure all my levels are good. Torque again. And you can see I do the same pattern that I did the first time. All right, so we're gonna do our last torque at 20 inch-pounds. I'm still gonna keep my eye on the bubble level and the grid to make sure nothing's actually moving. I'm gonna hit my crisscross pattern here. All right, so we got that torque down. So this reticle or this optic's actually ready to get to the range and shoot. The cool thing about it is, if you've ever messed around with bubble levels and you had one on your turret and you had one on your Picatinny here, as you be tightening it down, sometimes those can fall off. So I didn't have to deal with that. I could torque it down, look at my projector, look at my grid. As long as those were level, I knew that my plane was good and my reticle would be good here. And now I can get this thing zeroed and my wife can get out and start shooting it at our next competition.